Okay, let's look at this question. As you know that nowadays they like to test question about mask wearing, right? So this person is wearing a mask and a misty spectacle lens. So the question says, Harry observed that his spectacle lenses became misty whenever he wore a mask loosely in an air-conditioned room. So if you don't wear your mask properly, you wear loosely, when you exhale, right, the water vapor from your mouth or from your nose, right, will be able to escape upwards because hot air rises. Okay, so they explain why Harry's spectacle lens became misty. So this is a commonly tested question. We test you the concept of condensation. Okay, condensation is losing heat. So you must talk about this part. So you must mention that when Harry wears a mask loosely, right, water vapor from his nose or from his mouth was able to travel to the lens. And the water vapor, because it's at a higher temperature, right, it's warm-blooded. The warmer water vapor loses heat to the cooler lens and condenses into tiny water droplets, forming the mist. Okay, so you must mention this way, which I help you in this answer here. So you see, when he wore a mask loosely, water vapor from his nose was able to travel to the lens. Thus, the warmer water vapor from his nose loses heat to the cooler lens and condenses into tiny water droplets. Okay. The tiny water droplets. Maybe this part just remove up. The tiny water droplets were seen as mist formed on his glass. 2 marks. Next, explain why more mist was found on his lens when he was in an air-conditioned room compared to a non-air-conditioned room. So this one, you got to understand that condensation happens more when the temperature difference is bigger. Because when he's in a non-air conditioned room, example, let's say 30 degrees, but for human, right, our normal body temperature is about 37. So 37 minus 7 in a non-air conditioned room, the temperature difference is only 7 degrees compared to it when he's in an air conditioned room. So air conditioned room maybe is 22. So 37 minus 22, there's a 15 degrees temperature difference. So for this question, you're going to talk about the temperature difference. In a non-air conditioned room, it's actually lesser than in an air-conditioned room. Okay, because you're supposed to answer why more mist form on his lens. So you should say that in an air-conditioned room, the temperature difference between the lenses, right, and the water vapor from his nose was greater. Okay, so this is also a 2-mark question. This part. In an air-conditioned room, the temperature difference between the lenses and the water vapor from his nose was greater, and the water vapor lost more heat to the cooler surface of the lens. Thus, more water vapor condensed into tiny water droplets in an air-conditioned room than in a non-air-conditioned room. Okay. So these are important doctrine that you must understand. So you take note of these questions commonly tested in exam. I believe that prelim exam, they will test one such questions. So you learn the concept well in this method which I taught you. And those of you who got my book, right, there's also one similar questions. In fact, last year PSLE exam, they came out one such questions. Because last year, I believe 100% of students, when they take exam, they're going to wear masks. So mask wearing is very commonly tested in the last year's prelim as well as actual PSLE. Okay. So this is one question I have screenshot already. Okay, the next question is about experimental design. Okay, take a look first, and I will send the question shortly for those who need help in the previous question. Okay, now let's look at this question. Zheng Jie slid down, means it's sliding down this way. He recorded a time taken for him to slide from point A to point B on the slope. He then sat on a piece of plastic sheet and repeated the same action. So now it's with plastic sheet and without plastic sheet. So can you see with plastic sheet, the time taken is shorter. It means at a higher speed. So what was Zheng Jie trying to find out? Okay, what was he trying to find out? So this part you're going to mention about, he's trying to find out about what? Hold on, let me minimize this thing. Yeah, he's trying to find out how the amount of friction between him and the slope affect the time taken for him to reach the end of the slope. So you give it a try first before I share the answer with you here. Okay. So he was trying to find out how the amount of friction between him, he was trying to find out how the amount of friction between him and the slope affects the time taken for him to reach the end of the slope. Okay, next, explain why sitting on a piece of plastic sheet will help Zheng Jie slide down the slope faster. So definitely you must talk about frictional force. So you should say that the plastic sheet is smoother, right? And it reduces the friction between him and the slope. Okay, so this part is very important. When you mention about frictional force, right, you must mention what surfaces. Okay, so for this question, you should mention the plastic sheet is smoother and reduces the friction or frictional force between him and the slope. As there was lesser friction between him and the slope, Zheng Jie could slide down faster. Okay, next, name the forces or force that are acting on Zheng Jie as he slide down the slope. So there are two forces, right? Actually, one you already named on top already. So it's gravitational and frictional force. Okay, when he slide down, will he slide down the slope faster or slower at the same speed if it rains heavily the day before? So definitely you must mention faster. Why? Because water acts as what? As a lubricant. Okay, so notice this is a 5-mark question. This is a 5-mark question. So you must mention faster because water acts as a lubricant. Okay. Faster. Water on the glass slope acts like a lubricant and decreased the amount of friction between him and the glass slope. Grass, not grass. Should be grass. Why I put grass? 草地, not glass, grass. Okay, take note of this. I screenshot this to send the answer to all of you. Okay, this is, as I mentioned, this is a 5-mark question. In fact, if you look carefully, this exam, there are 2 5-mark questions. Okay, this is a 5-mark question here. This is 3 marks. This is 4 marks. 4 marks. Last question, 5 marks. Last question is also a 5-mark question. Okay. So next question. this is also experimental design. Okay, so they say the solar panel converts light energy from the sun into electrical energy for daily use. In land-scarce Singapore, floating panels can be installed in reservoir. As you can see, there are some reservoir in Singapore, in fact, have this thing. And they can be controlled electronically to always face the sun. Okay. An engineer conducted an experiment as shown to investigate. So this is the purpose. Investigate how the angle of a solar panel to the sun affects the amount of electrical energy generated. So logically, right, I should always face the direct sun ray, okay, 90 degrees. Okay, can you see that at 90 degrees means vertically, you learn this one, right, perpendicular in mathematics, 90 degrees, right, they'll receive the most amount of energy. Okay, so you convert it to most electrical energy. So this chart actually is testing your understanding. At 90 degrees right angle, right, the amount of solar energy being converted to electrical energy is maximum. So you're supposed to state this one, right? So you should say that the greater the angle of a solar panel to the sun, the more the amount of electrical energy generated. Or you can say, as the angle increase from 30 to 90 degrees, the amount of electric generated also increase. So there are many ways of putting this. Okay, I should, let me erase this part. As I'm erasing, you can actually try to answer your question. Okay, actually for this question, right, I prefer you to write the specific number. So you say as the angle of a solar panel, right? Solar panel to the sun increases from 30 to 90 degrees. Okay. The amount of electrical energy also increases. Amount of electrical energy generated also increases. Okay, very straightforward, this part. Okay. As the angle of the solar panel to the sun increases from 30 to 90 degrees, the amount of electrical energy produced also increases. Okay, part B. Based on the data, give one advantage of adjustable solar panel versus fixed solar panel. Okay, because it can alter the angle, right? So one advantage here is, okay, this one you try to write in your own words. I will guide you to compare your answer with my answer. Okay, based on the data. So you look at here, right? They ask you give one advantage of adjustable solar panel compared to fixed one. So the most direct is because I want to make it always 90 degrees. Okay, so you say that adjustable solar panel can be angled, to face the sun at 90 degrees. To produce maximum amount of electrical energy. Okay, this one. Adjustable solar panel can be angled to face the sun at 90 degrees to produce maximum amount of electrical energy. So this is one advantage. Next, floating solar panel cover an area of 45 football field. How does this help in reducing water loss? Okay, then you got to understand the factors affecting rate of evaporation. So one of them is exposed surface area, right? So now you have this solar panel that is actually covering the reservoir. So that's means less water is exposed, right? Yeah, lesser surface area are exposed. So for this question, so you mentioned less, okay, lesser surface area, okay, lesser surface area of the reservoir, of the water in the reservoir. Water in the reservoir is being exposed to the sun. Reducing the amount of water loss through evaporation. Through evaporation. Okay. So this one. Lesser surface area of water in the reservoir is being exposed to the sun, reducing the amount of water loss through evaporation. Okay, so take note of this. I will send the answer key over. Okay, next question, quite simple. Okay, this one, the person fires a catapult. Okay, notice that this elastic band over here. So elastic band actually stores what energy? Potential energy. Okay, state the energy conversion that caused the ball to fly. Okay, this potential energy, right? This potential energy is actually the elastic potential energy. Then this catapult here, right? Because it moves forward. So it's KE, kinetic. And then the ball flies also, kinetic. Catapult. So explain in terms of energy conversion, why the ball flew higher when Venus pressed down. Okay, because when you press down more, right? So more elastic potential energy convert to more kinetic energy. Okay, so this part. Okay, so for this one, you must explain this manner. When Venus pressed down X or to carry further, the ball had more elastic potential energy. Elastic potential, elastic band. Thus, when the ball it will be converted to more kinetic energy to fly higher. Okay, this part. Okay, then they say the graph below shows the changes in the amount of energy possessed by the ball from the time it was launched until it landed on the floor. So this part land on the floor is this part. If you see, if you track here, so at this point X is referred to here. So what form of energy does the graph represent? So it represents what? Actually, it represents kinetic energy. Kinetic energy. Okay, why kinetic energy? Because you noted this part, right? When the ball lands on the ground, right? This part, this is when it lands on the ground. This is when it fires. So this one is the firing side. Okay. This is being fired. This is the part where it landed. So landed, that means the energy is still high because the ball is hitting here at a high speed. Okay, when it fire is also is even at a higher speed. So at position X is actually at the maximum height here. If you take a high-speed camera, you will notice at the maximum height here, the ball is actually momentarily like not moving because it reached its maximum height. Okay, so they ask you this point X, right? What does point X on the graph represent in terms of the speed of the ball? So it's actually 0. It's not moving. 0. Okay. 0. Or I say it stops momentarily, very short. Okay. It stops momentarily. It's not moving at the maximum height. Okay, this part. So let me screenshot here for you to see this part. And I send to the chat here for you to refer to the answer. Okay, next question, quite interesting. Okay, this is a toy car. So it says, describe what caused the car to move in the direction shown. Okay, because there's air coming out, right? So you must mention that the air coming out of the inflated balloon was going out from the straw in the opposite direction, which pushed the toy car forward in the direction. Okay, so this one. Okay, so you mentioned this. The air coming out of the inflated balloon, okay, because the air is coming out from here. Okay, the air is coming out from here. So when it comes out from here, there's opposite. So that's why the car moves in the opposite direction. Name the force acting on a toy car that was reduced during the movement. Okay, this is actually the frictional force. Okay, frictional force. It was reduced during the movement. Okay, this question you put a star here because this question, many students don't know how to answer this one. Part C. That means part C is actually related to part B. So now they're asking you, why was the frictional force reduced? Okay, so you must understand. Let me explain the theory to you behind this. So imagine this is the table, right? The surface. If the car is not moving, it means that the frictional force between the wheels and the surface, right, is great. Okay, if it is moving, means the frictional force has been reduced. That's why it can move. Okay, so for this question, you answer according to this concept. Okay, you say that when a toy car is not moving, when the toy car is not moving, the frictional force is greater, which prevented its movement. Okay, since it is moving now, since the point R is moving, it means that the frictional force was reduced. Okay, so you answer in this manner. Okay, how could Shane make the toy car move a longer distance without making any change in the design? So very easy, blow more air into the inflated balloon. Okay, this one. Blow more air into the inflated balloon. So this question, screenshot, and then send to every one of you. Okay, last question before I end. I try to end everything today with slightly, maybe 5 more minutes more. Okay, this is a very interesting question. You look at this bed, right? Okay, this bed actually is being used in some homes, especially the old folks there, and also used in maybe some of the community hospital taking out elderly people. So you need to understand how this circuit works. Okay, this circuit is actually quite creatively designed. Okay, when the person is on the bed, right, the patient, the weight of the person forces the spring to come down. Okay, the spring will be compressed. Okay, look at this design. So if the person leaves the bed, right, the spring will spring back, correct? So when the spring will go back, this contact will touch this contact. Okay, so they will form a closed circuit. Because look at here, this metal plank conducts electricity. So the current, the electrical current from this battery here can flow through this way. Can you see? Flow through the metal contact and turn on the buzzer, the alarm buzzer, as well as light up the lamp. So it forms a closed circuit. So you can actually annotate this to help you to visualize it and answer the questions. So now they ask you state the property of the contacts for the circuit and give a reason. Okay, this is a 2-mark question. So I already told you it must be what? Electrical conductor, right? So the property is the contact must be conductor of electricity. Then you must give a reason, okay, how this thing works. So you say when the grandfather falls down, because they ask you, they say that if his grandfather fell off his bed, right, the circuit will turn on the alarm buzzer and turn on the light. Okay, so in your answer, you must answer in this manner, which I show you shortly here. State the property. Okay, so this is the answer. Okay, so you mentioned that, okay, the contacts, they were conductors of electricity. When grandfather fell off the bed, the contacts need to touch and form a closed circuit in order for the alarm to buzz and the light bulb to light up. Only conductors of electricity can form a closed circuit when used as contacts. Okay. Okay, next question. They say there's a fault in this design. If you look carefully, there's a one fault. Let me erase a line. Okay, what is this fault? Okay, look at here. They say, what happened? There's a fault in the design, as Keith will also be alerted when his grandfather was helped by others to visit the bathroom. That's mean if this person, he didn't fall out of the bed, but let's say he just being helped by somebody leaving the bed, right? The alarm and the bulb will also turn on. So actually they miss out something here. Okay, so they ask you, what electrical part should Keith add in the circuit to prevent wrong alert? So actually, he should add a switch. Okay. So this switch should be in open circuit, right? Before the grandfather leaves the bed. So when he leaves the bed, it won't be false alarm. Understand? So they say it's a switch. And then you need to explain. That's why this is a 5-mark question, 221 below. So you mentioned what is missing. Okay, what should Keith? So Keith should add a switch. Okay, a switch. So you need to explain. When grandfather was helped by others to visit the bathroom, the switch should be switched off in order to form an open circuit for the buzzer not to buzz and the light not to light up. Okay, and the light not to light up when the contacts touch. When grandfather is on the bed, the switch should be switched on to form a closed circuit. When the contact touch, to make the buzzer and the light should fall off the bed. Yeah. Okay, so you must mention this way. Okay, so now they say the circuit doesn't work for a lighter person. What change must he do so that he can be alerted as well as grandmother weigh less? So lighter person, right, you should increase the spring, correct? Okay, increase the length of the spring. Increase the length of the springs so that the contacts are closer. Closer to each other. Okay. Yeah, because when you weigh less, that means less compressed. So the spring should be longer. Longer means they will force the contact point to be closer. Okay. So I have gone through this. And then I will send you the answer shortly. So hopefully you can get this correct. And I will send the answer to you.